In the animal kingdom, gorillas often greet each other with a hug. Certain species of penguins propose to their partner with a pebble. Female lions do all the hunting for their family. Orcas live with their parents their whole lives. While every family is different and every family is unique, the truth is, they're still our fam.
For the last few weeks, we've been in this series called Fam. And you may have been listening over the past few weeks thinking, yeah, my family situation is a lot different than that. The truth is, talking about family can be hard because for so many of us, family doesn't look the way that we thought it would look. You might see families that look pretty typical, mom, dad, 2 or 3 kids, and you might be thinking, that is so not my family. You might think, yeah, other families seem to have it all together, but for whatever reason, that's not the kind of family you've got. Maybe there's a lot of strain in some of the relationships in your family, or your family structure just looks a lot different from other families, and you feel insecure about maybe what other people think about that. Like, you love your family, even though it's not typical. And you find it difficult to explain, like, oh, well, that's not my mom because I live with my aunt. So that's not my mom, but I do live with her. Or, yeah, that's not my brother. He's my cousin, but we live together. So he's kind of like a brother to me. Maybe those moments make you feel like there's something wrong with your family, but there's nothing wrong with that family situation. Or maybe there are people that maybe you're not related to them at all, but we have trusting, loving relationships with those people, and so they sure feel like their family. But we're not sure how to talk about those relationships to other people. Like, how do you say, like, oh yeah, like this is my neighbor who comes to all of my stuff and listens to me when I'm having a hard time, and they celebrate the holidays with us. But I don't really want to call them neighbor because the word neighbor doesn't really begin to capture how connected we are. But they're not my parent, so I don't even know how to describe this relationship, because if I try to describe it, it's just going to sound like some weird adult that I hang out with a lot. But they're like family to you. If your family doesn't fit a formula, that is A-OK. You're not the only one, and families don't need to fit a formula. In fact, that's a feeling that a lot of us have. A lot of us feel like our families are a little bit different. Not just today, but even thousands of years ago. In the Bible, there is actually a story about 2 guys who were dealing with complicated family situations, and I think that can help us understand how different families can be. So these 2 guys are named David and Jonathan. So David wasn't living with his family. He had left his family to go work for King Saul. And Saul was Jonathan's dad. Now, as they lived and worked together, Jonathan and David became really close friends. Now, at first, this is no big deal because, Saul, Jonathan's dad, he loves David. He thinks he's great. But over time, things start to change. As king, Saul wants to be the greatest. Of course, he's the king. He wants to be powerful. He wants to be beloved. He wants the people of Israel to just think he's amazing. But he starts to feel a little threatened because David's popularity starts to grow among the people. And this is problematic because God had appointed David as the next king. And you can imagine Saul doesn't like this. David's getting all this attention and he's threatening his throne, right? He's threatening his glory as the king. So as a result, Saul begins to hate David. And I mean, really hate him. Like, he hates him so much that he plots to kill him. To save himself, David had to flee and go into hiding to narrowly avoid being killed by Saul. And this happened multiple times. So this is a really complex family dynamic because you've got David, who's not living with any of his family, but he's got this bond with Jonathan. And that bond is so close that it's like their family. But Jonathan's dad, Saul, is like actively trying to kill him. How do you make sense of that? Like, where should Jonathan's loyalties lie? Should he be loyal to his dad? I mean, after all, that's his dad. Or should he be loyal to David, his best friend that he has such a bond with that they've become like family? You know, sometimes we have people in our lives that aren't technically family to us, but man, we love them like family. And that's how it was for Jonathan and David. Their friendship was more like a brotherhood. And when you have a bond with someone like that, where you help each other out and you stick with each other no matter what, and you protect each other, you're the kind of friends that become family. The Bible describes their friendship like this in 1 Samuel chapter 18, verse 3. It says, "And Jonathan made a solemn pact with David because he loved him as he loved himself." I think the story of Jonathan and David is really great for a lot of reasons. But one of the main ones, one of the reasons that I think it's particularly great is that it reminds us that our family is who we choose to love and who loves us in return. Like we said, not all families fit a formula. And sometimes, like for Jonathan and David, you find yourself in a situation where other people in your life feel more like family than the people that you're actually related to. Your friends, their parents, a coach, a teacher, your small group leader, even the other members of your small group. Sometimes God puts people in our lives that become extended family. And that's part of what the church is. We act as the family of God. We support and we encourage each other because that's what God calls us to do. He created us to do life with each other like a family. Even when he was on earth, Jesus had friends who became like family. His disciples, the men who were his closest friends and followers, they became the people that he did everything with. They were as close as family, and as believers, they became part of this family of God. And that's the same thing that God offers us. I want you to know you have a family here at church. You have people who will choose to love and support and encourage you and become your extended family. And maybe your family at home is already awesome. Or maybe your family doesn't look the way that you had hoped it would. No matter what your situation is, I want to tell you, you have a family, the family of God in our church community. And we will walk with you through this life. Family is who you choose to love and who loves you in return. We make a choice to love you. And as a participant in this family, we hope that you will extend that love to others in return. So as we get ready to wrap up, a couple things I want you to think about. Think about who you trust to love and treat you like family. Who is it that makes up your family outside of your family? One of the best things you can do this week is think about who those people are and then let those people know how much you appreciate them. And that can take a lot of forms. You know, you can text them right now. You can write them a note. I love handwritten notes, right? You can give them a shout out on your social media. Thank them for making you feel like family. Thank them for choosing to love you. And let them know that you intend to do the same for them in return, that you want to extend love to them like family in return. Now you might be thinking, yeah, I wish I had people outside of my family that I could rely on, but I don't really feel like I do. If that's you, I want to encourage you to be intentional about broadening your circle. Bring more people into your circle intentionally. Think bigger than just the people that you're already close to right now. Think about who else is speaking into your life. Who are the adults that you trust? I also strongly encourage you to get plugged into a small group. Yeah, it's going to be awkward at first, but I really encourage you to take that step because small groups are kicking off in less than a month. And we are launching small group signups later this week. So join that small group. And then once you've joined it, put in the time and energy to build those relationships. It does take time to develop those relationships. It means you've got to invest in showing up every week. You want to be intentional about texting them, reaching out to them on social media. You want to form those bonds with intentionality, right? They don't just sort of naturally happen. But as those bonds grow, be open about who you are and what's going on in your life. Allow them to be family, to be your church family. You have an open invitation to actively participate in this church family. You are wanted and loved here. I promise you that investing the time and energy into growing those relationships is worth it. It's not always easy. There's almost always an awkward phase, but it is awesome, and it is totally worth it. Investing in those relationships will help you expand who you can call family. Because remember, your family is who you love and who chooses to love you in return. One of the best parts about following Jesus is that we gain a family. The church, your small group, can become like a second home, a place where you know that you are loved and cared for, and we will walk alongside you through this life. That's how God designed it to be. That is how God designed church families to work. He knew that life is not always going to be easy. And that's why we need each other. And so our hope is that you will find Crosspoint and your small group to be an extension of your family, a place where you belong and a place where you know that you are loved, a place where you can find your family.